if I were to only offer one word for these 30 speakers, it would be infinite space. And you feel it and you hear it. And I've never experienced anything like it with any other speaker. Hi, my name is Rob Macomber. I am a mix engineer for Remote Production Group, and we're here today on our truck Gemini. So the particular setup we have in this truck, our main LCR are the A26s.
AT26.
And the remaining speakers above me and around me are the A6s.
AT6.
They work amazingly, perfectly in this room in the remote world, making this truck not a truck. One of my perspectives after spending a couple months mixing on these is that I can mix a record here. In the past, it's triage. It seems like it always is. Coming from the studio world and working in live broadcast for the last 25 years, it's quite different in that aspect. These speakers have completely opened up my mind in terms of how I can utilize this control room, aside from broadcast, actually. I feel like I could completely mix a record in this truck with these speakers. What's so different about the 30 speakers that I've never said about any speaker is the natural feeling that it gives you. You are subconsciously electrified by the sound that you're hearing coming from these 30 speakers. The dimension is crazy. It's almost like if you were to visualize a triangle and then a triangle dip down and wide and high to an infinite point almost. From an engineering standpoint, maybe the best way to put that is, you can hear the decays end. Well, you can, and you can hear that they're infinite, that they're still going. There's never that back wall. Even listening in mono, there's an image. There's so much space behind that mono sound that it's just a whole new dimension, if you will. And my perception of the 30 speakers is that they're just what every speaker should be, but we never knew that because we've never had these. And people say, yeah, listen to speakers, listen to this speaker. Yes, I'm very familiar with great speakers. I always want to hear, I'm always open to hear new things. But this was a complete game changer. The first thing I heard was a stereo mix. The band started and the imaging was incredible. I could hear the instruments so perfectly here and here and here, and there was no pinpoint, or there was a pinpoint. It's space. If there's one word that these speakers offer is space. Around you, above you, below you, a dimension that you've never had before listening to speakers, that I've never experienced. So no matter how much reverb and timing and delay you deal with in creating a mix to create space, you've done that, and now you play that back on these speakers and you say, holy, it's not that you go negative, I'm hearing the things I did wrong, or you go positive, however you look at it. The things that you hear that you would have said in other speakers are wrong. I knew there was a bass problem in that frequency range. It's subtle, I heard it and it was 1 dB off, whatever. It's like, this is the way it's supposed to be heard, and we never knew that. It's like the music standing in front of you. And if someone's talking, we call that music. There is pitch, there is rhythm. It has a whole new character, a whole new perception coming from a microphone, coming from a recorded medium. It's the same thing as standing right in front of the source. I've never connected more closely in my life. I never knew I could. The speakers are the last point, and all of the things you deal with to that point. Okay, maybe in a recording session, doing a record, the perception is that you've got all this time and it needs to be perfect, you can make it perfect. You still have what I would call a wall. It's still, we're talking stereo, it's still left and right. There's so much more in these speakers because you hear everything behind them in the room. I immediately, having done many recordings in few particular rooms, knowing the sound of those rooms, attending shows in them, working in them for almost 20 years, and then hearing recordings that I did now on these speakers, I hear the room more than ever. And it's not like, yeah, you can kind of, it's like, bam, slap you in the face. That first thing I heard in stereo, the band started, and I was like, wow, the imaging is crazy. Then the vocal came in, and in less than a second, that vocal was like floating right here, and I could smell the space behind him. And it was just like, I sat back and like got goosebumps, kind of like I'm getting now. And it was just a crazy experience. So all in all, with the third ear speakers, it like truly makes your speaker invisible. I just want to close my eyes and just feel the space around me. I've never heard the space in all directions from any other monitor. It's astounding. This is the crazy thing. When has a speaker completely changed your perception of how things sound in the room? Completely. Yes, it's going to change. But to have no acoustics change in a room that's not acoustically perfect, perhaps in a truck, to not change any acoustics in a room and to replace the speaker system and to have that uniform sound that you have in the mix position pretty much everywhere in the room is unheard of. Unheard of. I noticed that right away. Everybody just keeps going on about it. I just, well, I don't get it. I don't get it. That's because we need an answer for everything. How about just let your ears do the listening? On the third ear speakers, what I hear, what detail I hear in recordings that I've done is incredible. Thinking particularly of a live show in a club with piano and saxophone and quiet, intimate setting, quiet, intimate orchestration, and to hear the breath and the rustling of the suit on the jazz man, the saxophone, the sax man, and to hear the piano. This player happened to use the sostenuto pedal quite a bit, and it clunked a little, but it wasn't a problem clunk. It was musical because of the dimension that this offers you. Again, it's like I'm sitting there in the club experiencing it. I can mix at a very low volume, and it is completely uniform. I don't have to fight my ears to adjust. It just happens naturally. I find that the left side of my brain melts away and the creative side just flows. The third ear speaker is by far the most musical speaker I've ever experienced in my life. And that's what it's about in our world, is capturing and reproducing that. As the third ear speaker applies to broadcast, different from making a record in the studio across many weeks, maybe months, we are a member of the band improvising with them on the go, on the fly. There's no stopping. The clock does not stop. Everything runs by the clock. And these speakers enable us to just have the complete confidence in all of the things coming at us and dealing with those, and then having to be concerned about, okay, I know how this translates on these speakers in this environment, and I need to do this, or it just needs to be like this. It's not quite there, but all of that is out the door because you're just flowing creatively. And assuming all those technical issues are out of the way, or you've put them out of the way, it makes our job so much easier. Everybody has more fun. Everybody, is happier with the product. It's crazy. This has happened to me twice in my career where these amazing new speakers have come in and they've taken mine away. This was not a wrench. This was like water flowing out of a faucet this big around. It was quite a really cool experience the first time I heard these. Yeah. And everything since. The speaker is not there. There's an infinite amount of space between each speaker in a stereo image, and an infinite amount of space behind the speaker, and at the same point, it grows this way because of all of that. After working on these third ear speakers for a few months, in kind of hindsight, looking back at what I'd done, anything change, and any kind of change, and I definitely lean back toward not EQing, not controlling dynamics until it's totally needed, And using, unless it's a terrible sound from the source, that must be adjusted, but kind of in an old school fashion, as we learn, you get the blend and you get the balance, and the timbres adjust, and the sound of this instrument changes slightly as this comes in and is placed in your spectrum. So, okay, there we go again, in the panning spectrum. You have an infinite number of places to put things. Because of this depth, you could put things, you could have a marching band in a straight line in the center speaker, and you'd be able to hear more clearly every single instrument than you would, I would have to bet, in any other speaker. The choices you have as a mixer seem more infinite, and you can be more creative. I visualize when I mix, and I see shapes. We'll say a lot of circles, squares, and triangles. And if I were to use that analogy to describe the difference with what I hear in these speakers versus a visual of what I had with every other speaker, was if you think of Tetris, or you think of a piece of art that is tons of little shapes. So I visualize when I mix, and thinking of circles and squares and triangles, all of these shapes and in the orchestration of the shapes overlap and have different shapes and sizes, or different sizes and places in space. You try to do that more visually to get your ears to hear that as well. With these speakers, I'm doing much less of that in terms of trying to find it, because that space is already there. And if you were to visualize this, maybe similar shape, but think of a honeycomb. The geometry and the symmetry in the visualization of the sound coming from these speakers is mathematically right. It's not blurred shapes over each other. This is here, and it can overlap, and you can see, you can hear right through it, and it's created this place here as opposed to right here. And things can be like this and like this and like this, and it's something I've never experienced. I'm just dumbfounded. Putting words on it almost kills it. You sit here, your passion, your excitement to tell us, oh, you've got to hear these speakers. Yeah, I listen to music in the background. It's not really that important to me. You'll get that person. It's not that you need to get them. They will be gotten, because the music will get under their skin, and they'll be affected differently than they've ever been in their life. And that's the difference between, I don't want to say a sound engineer and a layman, but the listener. Many people are musicians who don't play instruments. They have an ear for music, and they are musicians. They have that amazing appreciation for this at a whole different level. And those are the people that are getting even more passionate about, oh, you've got to hear these. You've just got to experience this. I can't. So sometimes words can dull the experience for some people. So I try to, realize my position and my passion. Just be like, just listen and tell me what you think. And honestly, I haven't heard one bad opinion from any person, hundreds of people. These third-ear speakers are spiritual, if you could say. You can't put words on them. You can't explain them. You just experience them and cry. Definitely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, pinch me. I get to do this for a living. So awesome. Yeah, it's fun. If the powers that be came in and said, these speakers need to be replaced with these speakers, X and Y, I honestly think for the first time in my life, I would revolt and say, no, you can't take these away. Why would you give up quality for whatever reasoning you have on replacing these speakers? As of today, that would be my decision. That would be my statement. They translate, so that's always been the thing about speakers. You listen on a on a boombox, you listen on an Oratone, you listen on NS10s. That's not my jam. Give me the speakers that are right, and I'll do my best to work. Everybody has insecurities. These third-ear speakers, to me, feel like my insecurities melt away. I just so naturally want to, or naturally feel confident in what's happening. It sounds good, and there's no question. I don't have any need to A/B it on any other speakers. Third-ear speakers really make you step back and rethink your game. I've always been trustworthy in studios that I walk in to mix and work in, and that's typically the case. But I know that I could take these speakers in any room and they would be right. What I would be hearing would not be affected by the room. I would hear truly what is coming from the speakers, and what is coming from the speakers is truly the most perfect representation of the recorded source I've ever experienced. Another quality of this third-ear speaker is the ability to not have to turn it to 11 to smell your mix. You can feel it. You don't have to have the speakers bouncing off the shelf to get your mix together. That's the crazy thing, is you're hearing things that have been on recordings for years on these speakers, and things in songs that I've sang since I was 10 years old, heard thousands of times. And I'm not listening intently. I'm just sitting here with these speakers listening to this too. This is cool. Whoa! I've never heard that cowbell. Cowbell. It's just so lightly there. I heard a Fog Hat tune the other day. Then I was sitting here just flipping through stuff. I put on a classic rock on Apple Music or something, and I've had that experience in life, usually in headphones. Different types of headphones and things, and you hear it in things in different places, and they're played with. They're played with. Everything is played with. This does not sound played with. It sounds natural. Proof of concept is in everybody's reaction. You put an artist who's deeper than anyone else who knows their music, an artist in this seat, to listen to stuff that means something so differently to them than anybody else. It is their heart and soul. For them to hear this, to hear their material that they worked so hard over forever, and to have the same experience, to have that done 30 years ago. And now for them, being where they are in the industry, where they are in the industry, meaning the experience that they have, the life experience, incredible, that not many have, that make them, a master at their field. And they'll come and sit here and feel like a 5-year-old and babbling and crying back to basic human instinct, because they can't stop the jitters and the goosebumps of what their music is now doing to them. Thank goodness it was recorded. And who knew that this would be so revealing? Because of that dimension that was captured, analog digital, and now it's able to be reproduced through the speaker more accurately than we've ever heard. If one was not happy with listening in this world, one would think that you could just get these and it would change everything. Because music is a whole different experience. It just flows. The words, space and flow, creativity, everything is, all the barriers are knocked down, and you can just trust what you're hearing and do anything. So you're going to try things you've never tried before because you were constrained, I think. These third-ear speakers speak the truth. I've never experienced anything like them in my life.